Good day, my fellow South Africans. My name is Ricardo Marman, and this is a message brought to you by the Republican Party of South Africa. My fellow South Africans, as I've said previously, our country is in dire need of fundamental reform. We need to reform our entire society so that we can stop this corruption and so that we can stop this dysfunctional society that we are currently living in. Now, education reform is extremely important because our current education system is basically wool that has been pulled over our eyes to blind us from the truth and to leave us vulnerable to the deception of our enemies. Now, this wool in the form of our education system is being pulled over our eyes because of the centralized nature of our education system. This centralized education system allows politicians basically to be the ones that introduce our children to reality. And these politicians are the ones that can define what reality is and the understanding of reality. They determine for our children what is right and wrong, what is fact and fiction, and what is real and what is not real. They have this power because of the centralized education system. Because in this centralized education system, they are the ones that determine education policy. They are the ones that put together the syllabus, where they can then include certain facts and certain books, or they can exclude certain facts and certain books, or they can exclude certain people from history. And therefore you find a situation that the heroes of the country are also the heroes of this political parties that tend to control the education system. That is the evidence of this wool that is being pulled over our eyes, my fellow South Africans. Now, the fact that the education system is centralized and therefore controlled by politicians leave our education system vulnerable to the control by the New World Order cabal. As I've explained, this cabal are basically the puppet masters that control our politicians by a string, and therefore, through these corrupt politicians and sellout politicians, the New World Order can therefore manipulate our education system. And by manipulating our education system, they can manipulate our understanding of reality, of what is right, what is wrong, what is true, and what is false. My fellow South Africans, the very first thing that this New World Order cabal wants you to know is that they do not exist. And therefore, any mention of them, they cloud in a phrase called conspiracy theories. They have come up with this phrase, conspiracy theories, and they use this phrase to brand anyone that even suggests that politicians might be corrupt and that politicians might be controlled by those who give them money. And so whenever they give this branding to anyone and call them a conspiracy theorist, then we have been programmed to laugh at this person. And we have been programmed then to disregard whatever they have to say. Because the indication that we have here is when the term conspiracy theory is used, the reaction should be laughter, ridicule, and ignore whatever that has been said. My fellow South Africans, they want you to know that God does not exist. That is what they want you to convince you about. They also want you to convince you that there is no truth. They want to convince you that there is no justice. They want to convince you that the media that they own, that is private businesses in the control of the hands of the business people, or that are in the control of the hands of the politicians in the case of state-owned media. They want to convince you that that media is independent and impartial. That's what they want you to believe. My fellow South Africans, they have convinced most of us that the theory of evolution is not just a theory, but a fact. They have convinced most of us that there is no such thing as absolutes, that everything is relative, that every part of our society is a figment of our imagination. It is a social construct that can be changed at whim. They want you to stop believing in God. They want you to be convinced that God does not exist so that you can have put your faith in their new religion, their belief in their scientists. Their scientists who are no longer the agents of facts and of truth and reality, but these scientists stand by with theories to explain everything. My fellow South Africans, ask yourself this question. How many of us still believe in God? How many of us still believe in right and wrong? How many of us still believe in justice and in truth? My fellow South Africans, why have they not have a political education in schools to equip our children and our society to better understand the political system and therefore to be in a better position to participate in this system? My fellow South Africans, how many of us understand that communism and capitalism are basically two sides of the same coin? My fellow South Africans, how many of us understand what the Reserve Bank does and for who does it do what it does? Many of us have been shamed into compliance and acceptance by many of the economists who use certain cryptic phrases, and they use shame so that we could be silenced. They use terms like the time value of money, inflation, quantitative easing. They use these phrases to intimidate us and to use our ignorance that they have put us in as a shame so that we can accept this clear fraud that is being committed of creating money out of thin air. My fellow South Africans, the politicians have for years put in our education and into our schools and textbooks their lies and deception that is aimed to maintain their power and respectability amongst the people and to ensure that their puppet masters are either not mentioned in the history books at all or that their puppet masters receive a favorable mention so that we as the citizens could always be easily led by this deception that they are playing against us. My fellow South Africans, the reason why our people are being kept in the dark and being deceived and being fed falsehood on a daily basis is because they want to chain us and they want to enslave us, and they know the truth will set us free. My fellow South Africans, they want to dominate over us. They want to have power over us, and therefore they lie to us, and therefore they hide and manipulate the truth because they know knowledge is power. My fellow South Africans, the time has come for us to realize that our entire education system has been wool that has been pulled over our eyes. And this has been done so that they can maintain their manipulation and their deceit over us. The time has come that we must decentralize our education system. We must take away the power of politicians to determine reality on their own. Centralization gives them a monopoly over determining the reality to our children, to us. They have a monopoly over right and wrong, a monopoly of what is true and false. It is time that parents have a big responsibility. Parents have a right to educate their children, and that they play a bigger role in the education system. And this is what decentralizing the education system will do. It will strengthen the role of parents, it will strengthen the interest of children, and it will ensure that politicians can no longer manipulate the system, and that those who manipulate the politicians are also then powerless to manipulate our understanding of reality. Education is important, and education is a responsibility of all citizens, a responsibility that they must endeavor to fulfill from the cradle to the grave. My fellow South Africans, The education of our children is fundamentally important in maintaining our republic because knowledge and truth are the bastions of freedom. My fellow South Africans, it is time for us to realize that our education system needs reform, that we must remove the wool that has been pulled over our eyes. Support the Republican Party. Support us, my fellow South Africans, as we endeavor not only to show you the truth, but also to propose to you the necessary reforms so that we can correct this wrong that has been done, so that we can remove this wool that is aimed to blind us and to deceive us, so that we can be constantly under their yoke and constantly under the power of this illegal, illegitimate, immoral, and diabolical cabal. Thank you very much.